Okay, so I previewed this season with a column that had 20 increasingly bold predictions, and one of them was Minnesota finishing with a top 3 record in the Western Conference. They look really good right now. Number 4 in net rating, 5-2. I still think that it's possible they finish top 3 in the Western Conference, but I wanted to take this one step further and ask you guys if we should consider them a bona fide title contender right now.
I'm there.
Woo.
I did this on Tuesday in the Power Poll. I had them 5th. And I think I put it in pen, not pencil. Like I'm there with them from a size defense standpoint and whatever is going to happen with Edwards over the last 6-7 months. I mean, there's contenders and then there's like, are these guys a finals favorite? And I just feel like Denver is levitating above everybody else. The Celtics, as soon as they fix 2 bench spots, are probably the 2. But I think Minnesota is right there underneath, right? I had them with Golden State and Philly. Those were the 5. And then we'll see who else joins. But to me, I think they're there. What do you think, Howard?
Well, look, it's a positive sign that the chemistry seems sound-ish. It's early. Positive that Gobert is now talking about, like, yeah, this is the best I've felt it forever physically. Back concerns and whatever that were, I guess, hampering him last year. That matters because it felt like Gobert was maybe starting to trend, even before he left Utah, even before the trade. It seemed like he was maybe trending downward as that supreme, the walking top 10 defense is what we refer to him as, right? You plug him into any team, they're a top 10 defense just by Gobert being there. And it seemed like maybe that was over based on age, mileage, wear and tear. But if he can do that again in this context, and they can have it figured out between him and Cat, Naz Reid, plug and play with those guys.
But don't forget about the best player in the league, Naz Reid.
Best player in the league, Naz Reid. Right, just a percentage point ahead of
the per 100 king, Naz Reid.
He threw, was it last night? The pass he threw? He had this incredible pass the other day too. I was in transition, dribbling up the court, and then it was the lob to Anthony Edwards, right?
Yeah.
They have a really interesting mix of high-end talent and depth, which is the really, really tough thing to do right now, because eventually your high-end talent makes too much money for you to have any depth whatsoever, which again, this is the argument against dynasties. Eventually, even whether it's the Nuggets, whether it's way too early to talk about the Thunder, but the Thunder have all this cool young talent. Eventually you have to pay guys. When you have to start paying guys, you have to start losing guys. Anyway, Timberwolves, contender. Right now, I'm going to pump the brakes. I'm just going to say, there were too many warning signs with this team even before Cat went down, and Cat's entire career is one big flashing warning sign. So I feel like the bar for them to prove to us that they are legitimate should be higher based on their own track record and frankly, Cat's track record as their centerpiece for so many years. And I know Ant Edwards is essentially the centerpiece now, but Cat looms large in this picture, and you can't just wave him away. And you can't wave his 7-8 years away.
I would say just the recipe here is best defense in the NBA, which they are, and I think is totally sustainable throughout this season because of how Gobert has played. He's averaging over 13 rebounds a game. The field goal percentage at the rim when he's the closest defender is just microscopic. He looks vintage. He looks like he was when he was winning Defensive Player of the Year awards. Him, and then just having a guard who looks like, I don't know if this is hyperbolic, but he looks like young Dwayne Wade with a 3-point shot right now. That's what Anthony Edwards is. He's 28-5, 50-40, 85 shooting splits. I think most of that is pretty sustainable throughout a regular season for him. And it's more than the numbers, though. It's just how he's processing defenses. The game is it's much slower this year. You can already tell than it was for him in his first few seasons. Where, I know his long 2 shot rate is really high right now through a few games, but when he does turn those shots down and he's patient, and he's waiting for cutters along the baseline or different opportunities to open up in a play, or sometimes he gives it up and moves and gets it back and attacks from a different angle. That's the type of stuff that super duper stars do. And the fact that he's already doing it at this young age, this early in the season, showing real comfort with Jaden McDaniels, with Mike Conley, with Gobert. He threw a lob to Gobert the other night when last season he basically never even looked at Gobert when he was rolling down the paint. So I just think like these pieces make so much sense. They have so much depth. They have space. They have so much size, and they match up really well with the best team. And I mean, they spanked the Denver Nuggets a little while ago,
and they beat the Celtics. Yeah, the Edwards piece, the decision making still makes me a little nervous because they should have lost the Celtic game in regulation. If Missoula calls a timeout and actually sets up a play, maybe the game goes differently. But he heats up in a way that reminds me of like the best players of all time. Like I feel totally comfortable saying that. He takes over games for 3-4 minutes in ways that remind me of the best players I've ever seen. And Howard, we're the two old guys. Like, I don't think that's nuts to say when Edwards is feeling it on both ends for 3 straight minutes, it's way, way up there. It's at a different level. And to me, that's why they're a real contender, because they have somebody who can elevate like that. Shea can do it, but he can't do it on the other end. You know, and Shea's a good defensive player, but not Edwards was like, he imprinted himself on that overtime in a way that I thought was pretty unique. So you throw that with the other stuff. I'm with you on Howard on Towns, though. He's the fart in the church of this team right now.
I would say that one of the reasons why people are skeptical about this team is obviously their offense when Towns is on the court with Gobert. So far, 118.9 offensive rating. Yeah. Extremely good. The Denver Nuggets this season are 118.4, just for some comparison and some context. And they're doing things on defense that they just never have done for like half a decade. Like they're not fouling, they're grabbing defensive rebounds, they're getting back in transition. So
when you can protect the rim,
yeah,
and you can defend the 2 best perimeter guys in the other team, that's like 97% of the battle.